It's Saturday. It's the day between Good Friday and Easter Sunday when Jesus lied dead in a tomb. I heard recently a story about a 3-year-old girl whose mum had been telling her about the Easter story. They'd been working through it and they'd reached the point where Jesus had died. And the girl was distraught. She was upset because Jesus had died. And the mum didn't know what to do. How could she comfort her daughter where Jesus had died and she was so upset? And of course we laugh about it a bit, don't we? Because we know the end of the story. We know that Jesus rose again. We know that's what we'll be celebrating tomorrow on Easter Sunday. But perhaps it's a little reminder to us that for Jesus' disciples, for those close to him, they didn't know the end of the story. For them, this day, Easter Saturday was the day that Jesus was dead. They weren't expecting him to rise again. And tomorrow we'll be celebrating, we'll be rejoicing, and it's right and it's proper that we should do that. But also we need to remember that at times we go through days like today for Jesus' followers. Days when we don't understand what's going on. For days when we don't see what the end of the story is. The Bible has some helpful traditions for how we go through these times. It's called lament. And the Psalms are full of them. And yeah, I know so often when we look at the Psalms of lament, we get to the end and there's this bit of praise, but not all of them turn out like that. Some are clearly written in the middle of trouble, where they don't understand what's going on or what's going to come next. Psalm 88 is a great example. Verse 3 of Psalm 88, I'm overwhelmed with my troubles, and my life draws near to death. I'm set apart with the dead, like the slain who lie down in the grave. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths, it says in verse 6. Perhaps particularly relevant for us today, verse 8, you have taken from me my closest friends. And the psalm doesn't end on a note of joy and praise and rejoicing. The psalm ends again with words that we might feel very close to us today. Verse 18, you have taken from me friend and neighbour. Darkness is my closest friend. The person who wrote this psalm was going through a dark and a difficult time, isolated and alone. And the end of the psalm is not a point of rejoicing in having come through it. The end of the psalm is darkness is what's close to me right now. And where I know for some in our church family, for people in the world today, we journey through dark days. Perhaps we need to rediscover something of that, of the ability to lament, of to cry out to God and say, Lord, what is going on? The psalm begins, Lord, you're the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. And may we do that ourselves. May we do that for one another during this time, to bring our cries before God and ask him to turn towards us in all that we face right now. Tomorrow it'll be Easter Sunday. We'll rejoice and we'll celebrate. And it's right that we do, because we know in the end, as we read the Bible, as we read these other Psalms, we know that God wins. We know that we don't need to be afraid. But at points, as followers of Jesus, as those disciples on that first Saturday, there are times where we don't know what's going on. We don't see how it ends. And in those times we can still come to God and cry out to him that he'll hear our cry and have mercy upon us.